shouldn't mention other brands, I guess, but and I don't think it was their strainer basket. Don't get me wrong, but it was just
right.
It's just weird that it turned orange.
Right.
Okay, and then so at any rate, so that was something that bothered me. Just the plug underneath the sink, and then something else that kind of bothered me as I went into this farther was that in a lot of sinks where the drain hole is, it's 1.25 inches wide. Sometimes it's 1 inch deep.
Right.
And food always gets in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to use your fingers like little tweezers and pull the carrots and peas out. It drives me crazy. I hate it. So I thought, let's fix that. So we made it with an oversized drain opening so that you can just hit it with a wash rag and get rid of all that stuff.
Oh, got
and
it.
then,
yeah.
if you want me to shut it down, I will, but this goes on and on. My sales manager tells me, Dan, it pains me to hear you talk about this sink, man. People don't want to hear all this stuff. They were sold 10 minutes ago, and he means it. And so if I'm talking too much, let me know, please.
No, but you're addressing issues of all the things that go through your head. When you're cleaning the sink, if you don't have a dishwasher and, you're cleaning, you're doing dishes by hand and you're, getting all the gunk out of the bottom of the sink and cleaning out the strainer baskets and doing this and doing that. And it's frustrating and it's gross. So there.
Okay.
So I love it.
Good. Well, then I'll carry on.
Yeah, please do. I find this very interesting because you're solving problems that affect all of us who have a sink, So go ahead.
Well, something else that aesthetically, it's like aesthetically a sink looks nice, but most people, when you pull the strainer baskets out, I don't think they care about what's underneath the strainer baskets. But I'm looking in these sinks and I'm thinking, look, I'm looking right down into the plumbing. Mm-hmm. And in some plumbing, with the new strainer baskets, they've got like plastic X's underneath, and hair gets stuck on it.
Yeah.
And you can see it, and you can see it's white plumbing, so you can see it's dark and nasty and ugly, and it just looks nasty. And I'm thinking, well, heck, this isn't right. So we made the underside of our I don't know what you want. We call it the strainer cup, but it's underneath the strainer basket is a metal cup that is the drain.
Right.
And underneath that, it's a black plastic fitting, so it looks finished. And the black kind of matches the disposer flapper. So now we were almost finished when I decided to clean up this host of problems, these things that bugged me. One more was that with most strainer baskets, they've got this stem underneath the strainer basket, and whenever you take it out, it rolls around.
Right.
That bothers me. I'm either really weird or it bothers everybody. I mean, you put it up on top and it rolls and falls into the sink and stuff. I never knew where to put it. So we made ours with 3 little legs so it sits nice and it's low, and it's the way I wanted it. And all those. What?
And that's so you're kind of type A like me, So it just needs to be just so. And it's sometimes, and then it's those little things, and that's what keeps chipping away at you sometimes. Are the things like the strainer basket rolling away. I get it.
Yeah, it's like and it wears out. So there was just all these things that we addressed. Now we were almost finished with the project. Those extra things took me an extra 1.5 years of design work and making sure they work and going back to the drawing board and it's somebody said once, something's in the details. I forget what it was. What is that saying? It's all in the details or something like that.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it took forever. And but I think we have the finest sink in the world. But so I'm going to go back to what I started talking about originally. The first 6 months, I kept thinking to myself, why aren't the major manufacturers making their sinks seamless?
Right.
We were totally befuddled. So my stamping experts, and they're good too. I mean, second generation. The father was a steel guy. The 3 sons are all steel guys, And, I mean, they know steel like nobody else knows steel. And they're like, damn, this will work. There's nothing wrong. Steel is tough stuff, man. You can't hurt it. So we got it. We tested it. We kicked it. We threw it around. And we're like, we don't know what the problem is. So we started taking the concepts after we got our patents to sink manufacturers.
Okay.
If you name one, we took it there. I'm not going to mention their names.
No, I love this part of the story that I saw on your website. In fact, I'm on that page right now because I have a few questions. But go ahead.
Okay. We took it every place. We kept thinking, so we took it to the biggest and the baddest, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we're in the sink business, not the disposer attaches to sink business. Okay. So then we took it someplace else, and the same upper tier, and they said, look, we've already got 6 lines of inventory. The last thing we need is another line.
Right.
And then we took it someplace else, and this is kind of the crux of the whole problem. This is why it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
They said, Dan, sinks have had seams in them for 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's complaining.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. And then there's something else that I need to talk to these fine folks, your audience.
Mm-hmm.
These guys know, all the big companies know, if there's an idea, they can probably design around it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the designers will buy their sinks.
Right.
Okay, they know that. So why risk getting out in front on something when you know you can probably copy it?
Right.
And nobody really cares. I mean, if I was making music, if I was Elvis Presley, there'd be like, you know what, we need to support the artist, and there's a lot of that out there, but there must not be a lot of it because otherwise the companies wouldn't get away with it.
Right.
There's something really weird going on. So, and that's the way it is. I accept that, and they're going to get a free pass on this sink, but there's going to be others where they're not because they're vulnerable to an ironclad patent. And if I had more money, more experience, the sink industry could really be in trouble right now.
Well, I guess what bothers me, just being a designer and from more of the creative aspect, is you create and to innovate and to change and to make things better and to do things different than the other guy. And I see this a lot in my industry of people just being complacent. Cubes are always designed this way when we're talking about, in cubicles, when you're designing for office spaces. It always needs to be this color. It always needs to be space planned this way. And it's like you're hitting your head against the wall sometimes when you try and break out of that box. And I don't understand that, especially being in a creative industry, to me, which should be the norm, which wasn't. And, even when I was in design school, they were just churning out, little CAD designers who can plug in some measurements and, there you go, instead of being really innovative. So I really respect that. So there you go, for what it's worth, Dan.
Thank you.
Now, what I love, can I just say this, on your website, you have absolutely one of my very favorite quotes from Henry Ford on there. And I love that this is one of your favorite quotes, too. If a man believes he can do a thing, or if he believes he cannot, in either case, he's probably right. And that's in anything. If you think you can or you can't, you're right. I love that quote. So I just had to get that in there, too.
Yeah, it does. It sustains me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple other ones. I don't think I got this one on there, but Winston Churchill said something like, success is going from one failure to the next with no lack of enthusiasm.
And don't you find, and just kind of what's going on in the country and everything right now, I think you need to fail to succeed, if that makes sense, because it means you're getting out there and you're trying and you're tweaking and you're honing the idea, to make sure that it's right. With what Thomas Edison, and he's another one on your site, You know, it's not all of a sudden that he developed the light bulb on his first try. You know, how many years later and how many tries, or ways that he found that didn't work.